here with saltinmycoffee.com. Thank you so much for coming back to our series on 1800s recipes leading up to Thanksgiving Day. Today's is really special. I know I kind of say that about all of them, but really today's is, look at this itty bitty cookbook. How amazing is that? It is just a wee little thing and really was nothing more than somebody's teeny tiny notebook back in the 1800s. The neat thing about this is it's filled with handwritten recipes. More amazing still, it was written right here in Maine. I am so honored to be able to kind of be the caretaker, is how it feels, of this little piece of history that originated not even an hour from where I live. This was written by someone more than 150 years ago, almost 200 years ago, who lived right here in this same state. It gives me chills just talking about it. And some of the recipes right here in this little cookbook actually have place names that are even closer than that. We've got Bridgeton gingerbread, for example. That is not far from here. Today's recipe that I'm sharing goes by another place name, which is Berwick. If you know anything about Maine, we have Berwick, Maine. And so today's recipe is actually going to be Berwick sponge cake. Now, I am very slow with turning these pages because it is so brittle. It is so very delicate. Every single page has come unattached from the spine, that little tiny stitched edge. And also it's a little bit hard to read. This was written in pencil. And let me just show you. She's glued some little clippings over top of some of the recipes. An interesting thing about this, I love how quirky it is. We've got pages like this one where you've got a recipe with a clipping down below. Multiple times throughout this little cookbook, we have recipes with, if you can see at the side, this one is pasted right over a recipe that was written under it. It's almost like she's decided, nah, that one wasn't my favorite. Let's paste something else over it. This is intentionally done. These are not clippings that were stuck in here loose and just sort of adhered themselves to the page. These are intentionally glued down over top of these handwritten recipes, some of which have a little X next to them, like, that wasn't my favorite. There's so much personality in this little tiny book. It's just so cool. All right. Let's read this recipe for sponge cake. I wanted to choose a recipe that is something somebody might have served in the 1800s on Thanksgiving Day. And I feel like this sponge cake recipe is a really good choice. Now, bear with me again. I'm a little bit slow reading this. It's in pencil, very small, beautiful script, and rather faint. Berwick sponge cake. Beat 6 egg yolks and whites together for 2 minutes. Add 3 cups of sugar. Beat 5 minutes. 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoonfuls of cream tartar. Beat 2 minutes. 1 cup of cold water with 1 teaspoonful of SALERATUS dissolved in it and beat 1 minute. 2 cups more of flour and beat 1 minute. Flavor with lemon. Now, as with so many, especially handwritten recipes of the era, but something you've probably noticed with some of the ones we've shared from published cookbooks even, you don't have the baking notes to go with this. You've got the ingredients, you've got some notes about mixing it and what order to do things. Kind of cute with this one, you've got beat this number of minutes in between each step. Adorable and quirky. I think that's a cool thing about this recipe. It doesn't say how hot or what type of pans. If it were me making this recipe, which I may do actually for my own Thanksgiving, we'll see. At some point, I am going to make this recipe. If it were me baking this cake today, I would probably be greasing and flouring some bread pans. Very often, cake was made in bread pans, especially in houses that didn't have pans for every different thing. I probably would make this particular recipe in a couple of bread pans, and I would cook it in an oven that was about 370 degrees. Somewhere right about there would probably be about the heat that she would have been baking this cake. That's what I would do. And if at some point I do make this recipe, I'll definitely be sure to share those notes with how it came out and if I would tweak that a little bit, the type of pan or the heat of the oven. But as a first go, that's where I would start. It's been so much fun to get a chance to share that with you, and really an honor. Berwick sponge cake. This is a special one to me. I don't, of course, have a link where I can, share a digitized copy of this cookbook for you to just peruse it because, of course, it's one of a kind. It's not in a library collection that's been fully digitized. But we may have to share some more recipes from this little cookbook as time goes on. This is Anna with Salt in My Coffee. Thank you again so much for joining me. I am enjoying this series so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.